Hey, hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to our May meeting of Environmental Justice, Tri-County Sustainability. It's really good to see everybody. Um, Hello, Sharonda. I always have to do a little shout out to Sharonda, especially. That's important. Um, so we have a full agenda, and but we have really special guests, and Daniel from Columbia University, and I'm going to try and say his last name, Westervelt, which I think I did right. Um, I want I had a really great experience with Dan at the air sensor meeting in California. He had some really great things, some great knowledge, which he's sharing with Trevor and myself. I'm gonna let Trevor actually introduce him, but I just want to thank Dan for being here and thank everybody for being here. So, Trevor, do you want to introduce him? I don't know, Dan, whether you need to. Maybe Sean can share, have you host or share your screen or whatever. But Trevor, why don't you introduce him? So.
All right, everybody. I'm going to introduce Dan Westervelt. He's an associate research professor at Columbia University Climate School's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. He's a primary investigator of his aerosol group, the Westervelt Aerosol Group. He's an advisor to the U.S. State Department on air pollution. He's an affiliated scientist with the NASA's Goddard Institute. And today he's going to talk about his research and CAMSnet. Yeah, that's what I got. Dan, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah,
I can see it.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you, Bill and Trevor, for having me here. It's really great to meet everybody. Happy to keep the discussion going after I'm done here. I'll try to keep it to maybe 15 minutes or so max. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about air sensor and air quality research that we do at Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is where I'm calling from right now. For those that are familiar with kind of New York, this is Columbia University, of course, is located in Manhattan. The Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is as the Earth and Environmental Science campus of Columbia, is actually located 15 miles north in Rockland County, New York. So it's just across the New York-New Jersey border, right up against the Hudson River. And like I said, this is where, all of Columbia's environmental science research takes place. So yeah, I think my introductions were well taken care of there. So I will get right into it. And I just wanted to first acknowledge a lot of my group members here at Columbia. So none of this work would be kind of possible without them. So I have PhD students and postdoctoral researchers, and also undergraduate researchers and master's students and folks that are contributing to some of the work that I'll present today. The funders of our work include the National Science Foundation, the U.S. State Department, the Clean Air Fund, and the Data Science Institute at Columbia. This QR code is my group website. You can scan it, or I saw somebody put a version of it in the chat, so that also is really great. Yeah, so I think maybe people know this, but I'll just go ahead and kind of start from the beginning. So air quality data is very sparse. We don't have a lot of air quality data, especially in the kind of poorer areas of the world, or the less wealthy area. Sorry, that's the same thing. Less wealthy areas of the world. And so you can see this on the left in this graph here, where most of Africa, for example, and most of South America, there's no air quality data. Each of these dots are representing like one air quality monitoring station. But if you look at this, zoomed out at the whole world, you would say, okay, US is pretty solid there. Plenty of stations. And I mean, relatively speaking, that is kind of true. But when you zoom in a little bit here, and so I took this from airnow.gov, these are the available monitoring stations from two sources. One from the US government, from the EPA. Those are the circles. So all these circles are US government sites. And then the squares are purple air monitoring sites. So these are like the air sensors that anyone can just go out and buy and put in their backyard. So even if you combine both of those things, you can see there's a lot of missing space. All right. So they tend to be located in the most populated areas like New York City and Philly. There's plenty of them. But there's a lot of places that are completely uncovered. And so, you know, the Tri-County area of New Jersey is certainly kind of within that category. But, you know, in this whole picture, there's all kinds of places that have absolutely no monitoring.
Daniel, on my screen, the slides are not advancing. I don't know if everyone else is having that same problem or not.
What about now? Did you get a new slide now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I just lingered on that one for a little. Okay, so the idea of, you know, the sort of monitoring, air quality monitoring, there's been a couple of approaches. You know, one is sort of the government approach, which uses what I'll refer to as reference grade or research grade monitors. So that down here in the bottom in the red is there's a picture of a typical EPA approved air quality monitor. And the sticker price for this is something like $20,000. When you include things like the maintenance, purchase of consumables, you need to buy like filters and stuff like that. The power consumption, these things are pretty power hungry. You need to have some kind of climate control because it's a very sensitive instrument that needs to be under certain temperature and humidity. That could really add up to about 50,000. So these are nice, and you know it's worked, but it's not going to be feasible to really have air quality data everywhere using just these EPA, you know, government approved, what I'll call reference grade monitors. So that's where the idea of air sensors comes in. And I have a few of them up here at the top. So the price is in green. These are just 5 or so common manufacturers. Most of them in these pictures are based in the US. These are, you know, folks that are the Modular, for example, is based in Boston. Clarity is based in California. Purple Air is based in Utah. But they have instruments all over now, and it's really done a good job of closing the air pollution data gaps that we see. However, one big challenge is the data quality. So you can imagine that the data quality from the very expensive EPA approved monitors is high. The data quality should be good. You're paying a lot of money for it, so it better be good. You can also probably imagine that a $200 piece of equipment is going to have a lot less accuracy than the $20,000 piece of equipment. And turns out that's true. However, this is where the science comes in. All right, this is where the research comes in. There's methods that we can use, statistical methods, empirical methods, where we can actually apply some correction to the data from these cheaper monitors, these air sensors, you know, quote unquote low cost sensors. There's methods that we can apply to get that data closer to high quality reference data. And so that's what we spend a lot of our time doing in my group. I'm going to try to make things not super technical, but I do want to just give you kind of a brief overview of how these devices work. So basically, you have some kind of light source on the left, which is typically a laser, so a small laser beam, and it goes through a lens to help focus it. And then at a different point within this piece of electronics, a particle sort of passes through this beam. All right, and so when this particle passes through this beam, some amount of light is scattered or just sort of deflected in a different direction than it would be if the particles weren't there at all. And you can measure that light. You can measure how much of that light was scattered. And you can also, you'll know just based on the geometry of the little sensor, you'll know at like what angle that light is being scattered. So these are like knowable quantities. And it turns out you can take this light intensity information, you know, so you might get something like this, in light intensity versus time. You can take that information and you can convert that into particulate matter mass concentration. So you can convert it into air pollution data. And so that's exactly how these things work. There's 2 main classes of these sensors, and this might get a little technical, so just bear with me for a minute. But one class of sensor is pictured on the top.
Dan, we have some smart people on the call, so don't worry about.
Okay, good. Sounds good. So yeah, the truncated nephelometers. So these are particles that, or sorry, these are devices that measure the scattering of the particles as one big ensemble. So they don't, all the particles come through at once. They don't really, you'll note, you might remember from my previous slide, I had this little line up there that said one particle at a time. That doesn't happen with these type of sensors. These are, you know, these are kind of, they're about $20. You can even get these on Amazon. They're called truncated nephelometers because the amount of light that you can see and detect from the scattering is truncated. It doesn't give you the entire full 360 degrees of possible angles of scattering. It only gives you maybe like 40% of that, you know. So it misses a lot of light that can then be used to transfer to particle concentrations. So these things are really only, they're really only useful from about 200 microns, 200 nanometers to about 1 micrometer for particles. Remember, we're talking about PM 2.5, which is everything 2.5 micrometers and below. There's another class of PM sensors that measures individual particles by detecting individual pulses of light. So it does that one at a time thing. And this allows it to sort of count the particles and to really understand better what is going on. And so this is in particular better at getting the larger particles, the particles that are greater than 1 micron. And, you know, as a result, these are a little bit nicer and a little bit more expensive, but, you know, still kind of cheap overall. So just to summarize the pros and cons of each type, you know, the nephelometer type is pretty skilled at measuring the sub-micron particles, so it works pretty well for PM 2.5, but it can't measure particles greater than 2 microns, so it can't be used for PM larger sizes of particulate matter. And it's confusing because the vendors that make these things will claim that they can do stuff that they can't. You know, they'll try to oversell it. The optical particle counters, on the other hand, are much better for coarse particles, and they also give some limited information about size distribution. There's one solution out there, the only one that I know of, that uses both of these, and it kind of leverages the strengths of both of these type of these sensors and puts it into one monitor, and that's the QuantAQ Modulaire. I think it's a really nice piece of equipment, and it works well. I don't work for them. I don't have any stake in them, so this is a totally independent sort of argument. Yeah, all right, let me speed up a little bit here. So one thing that can impact the accuracy of these sensors is the way that they interact with light. All right, so you're not directly measuring, you're not like weighing the mass of the particles, you're just indirectly trying to measure their mass by optical properties. And so anything that affects the optical properties is going to alter your estimate. And so there's a lot of different things that do this, but maybe one that we've been able to get a good handle on is the environmental conditions. All right, so the humidity, the relative humidity in the environment. When there's high humid conditions, water molecules will basically condense around the particles and cause them to swell. And so when your laser is looking at that particle, it thinks it's looking at something that's a lot more massive, but it's really just looking at a particle that has a little bit of water coating it around it. And so that's one way where you can get this, where these sensors can fail, is when they're not super accurate, is in that case. And this is just some data that basically shows that. So this is data from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, against the, so it's a purple air data on the y-axis and the Allegheny County Health Department EPA certified monitor on the x-axis. And if the purple air was performing perfectly, then all of the points would like line up really well on this black 1-to-1 line. Of course they don't. And where they become the most problematic, you'll notice, are these yellow and orange colors. All right, and these yellow and orange colors also happen to be high relative humidity. All right, so I have the dots colored by humidity as well. So this is just sort of, you know, data evidence that this is kind of what's going on. luckily the sensors that we use often measure relative humidity as well. And so we can take that information and apply a correction factor. And then what you see is on the right is the corrected data. All right. So if you apply this sort of very simple linear regression correction factor, you can get, much more accuracy on the data. So we've been doing this all over the world, really, this sort of co-location of sensors with reference monitors. And here's an example of one of the first ones that was done in New York City, to my knowledge. This was done at an EPA site at Queens College in Queens, New York. So that's a picture of the site. These little, plastic things here are different 3 purple air units. We basically just let the data in 2019 co-locate with the reference monitor. And then we compared the data side by side, just like in the previous plot. So we were one of the first people to do this at the site in New York. Now, 4 years, I guess 5 years later, there's all kinds of groups that are doing this also. And here's kind of another, example of how this works. So what we have in blue, if you just look at this plot, the y-axis is the PM 2.5 concentration. The x-axis is the time, so it's the date in 2019. And the blue is the what the purple air just reports out of the box if you just buy it and set it up. The yellow it says FEM. So that's the EPA federal equivalency method. So that's the ground truth. That's like the gold standard in gold. You can see there's quite a bit of difference there. So there's some error with this prediction. But if we apply a simple correction factor using multiple linear regression, we get the red values, which are, you can see, much, much closer to what we think of as the truth. So you can, once you, correct these towards high quality, there's an argument that can be made that now these sensors can be trusted in sort of regulatory settings and health settings and policy settings and advocacy settings and so on. So we have a lab at Columbia, at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, where we do all this kind of stuff as well. And so this is a picture of it here on the right. So that's Trevor. I'm on the far left. Trevor's on the far right. This is just taken yesterday, actually, where we've been setting up some sensors that are kind of behind us here. And this kind of tall thing here is the inlet for a GRIM EDM 180 reference PM monitor. So we have all kinds of equipment in the lab. We have the GRIM that measures PM. We have some NOx and ozone. And then we have a whole suite of air sensors. So things like purple air, air gradient, QuantAQ, clarity, so on and so forth. So, we're kind of the air sensors lab at Columbia. We're definitely available for collaboration on community-centered air quality projects. That's one thing we've been trying to do. If you ever, have some sensors and you want to test them out, we're happy to help on that. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot of time left, so let me just skip ahead a little bit here. I just wanted to show a few examples of some community-based research that we've done in my group. So this was a paper on the screen now that was led by a PhD student in my group who I showed a picture of earlier, in which they were doing air sensor monitoring in oil and gas impacted areas of the Ohio River Valley. And so basically they went around and they worked with local communities, this sort of anti-fracking group and this freshwater water quality group and some other folks to work on understanding the air pollution impact from all this gas activity that happens in Ohio and West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And so one of the cool things is, I'm not going to show much of the data, but this map here. All right, so every one of these like orange things with the little arrows that look like a sun, those are compressor stations. The red flags are natural gas processing plants. The little X's are unconventional wells. There's pipelines that are here in blue, and then the E's are the EPA monitors. So you can see there's some EPA monitors in this area, but missing a lot. So what we did is we went through and we added purple air monitors, low-cost sensors. We also added VOC monitors. The VOC monitors are in green. The purple airs are in purple, and we were able to get some good data out of that. Right. So the last thing I'll say is the last point I'll make is we also do a lot of like international work. So this is in Africa. This is in Ghana, where we've done a similar project where we've put a lot of air sensors up, tested them, evaluated them. These are some pictures from some of those events. And we're also doing things that go beyond just evaluating the data. So it's one thing to measure the concentrations in a city or in a location or in several counties and be like, these are my concentrations. They're high. They're not healthy. You know, that's useful, but it's limited in what's actionable. What's more actionable is, can we say these particular sources are the ones that are responsible for these pollution levels. These are the ones that are emitting pollution. And so that's what, I don't really have time to go into it, but that's one of the things that we do with these sensor networks, is we come up with like statistical ways to source a portion or source attribute. So we can say, okay, 50% is coming from this particular power plant, 20% is coming from vehicles, 20% is coming from small fires, brush fires or whatever, and so on. So yeah, I will just leave my summary slides up here and happy to take any questions. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dan. That was awesome. I do want to say that we're really looking to partner, like TCS is looking to partner with Dan to get some air sensor network. I love that term into South Jersey, especially in the our Tri-County area. So I did want to mention that. Do we have any questions? Like Sean has a question, right, Sean?
Yeah, thank you. By the way, awesome, Daniel, and thank you very much for the work that you do. This may sound like it's a silly question, but if you think about the geography of our organizational footprint, we have like Burlington County, for example, is the largest geographic county in New Jersey, and it stretches from the Delaware River near Philadelphia all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, and so the county itself doesn't have any air monitors because I guess all the farmland heading east kind of cancels out a lot of the pollution closer to Philadelphia, or at least that's their way of thinking about it. And a lot of those towns close to Philadelphia border Camden, and so the air doesn't recognize the border. So we're, as an organization, going to be making some decisions in terms of like spending money on air monitors. And so I know this is a silly question, but like, is it, in very general, but is it better to have more of the cheaper or fewer of the expensive? Like, if you had to, like, you had $1 to spend, is it better to carve it up, 10-cent monitors or $1 monitor?
Yeah, no, that is a really good question, and it is kind of a tough one as well. I think that air sensors are to the point that, when I say air sensors, I mean like the cheap ones. I think that they are basically to the point now where they're good enough for a lot of especially like community and EJ work, such that it probably makes more sense to go with the like multiple of the small sensors. Just because it's like, you're talking about, if you have a chunk of money, you can get one, EPA certified or 50 small sensors, So I think more towards that. I mean, the other thing is that there are these EPA sites where they have these sensors, these reference grade monitors. These are taxpayer funded. These are ours, So I've had a lot of success reaching out to folks that work there and being like, hey, I have all these sensors. I'm working on a community project. Can I come by and put one of my sensors at your facility for 3 or 4 weeks? And then the data is publicly available, so that's no problem. And then just use that to correct the sensors. And so I can, I've done that in a few different places, but I'd be happy to, if it comes to that in the future, I'd be happy to help make some introductions and sort of try to get you guys so that you can do the same.
Yeah, Dan, I think we should also mention, though, the cheaper ones do particulate matter, right? And
yeah,
that's all they do.
Yeah.
So if you really want to, and that's kind of where I have seen the gap, is if you really want to do some analysis of air quality, you got to look at more than just particulate matter. You got to look at gases too. And that's where I'm hoping that, Dan and Trevor and I can fill in that gap. Yeah, definitely go get the particulate matter ones. but to really have an impact on, your health. And I know particular matters asthma. So, I have asthma myself. So, but also the other stuff, you need other sensors. I think it's really important just to mention that, that, the cheaper ones won't tell the full story of your
Yeah.
air quality. So,
Couple more questions, I think.
yeah, David, what do you want to go ahead?
Sure, thank you. Dan, very nice presentation. I really appreciate it. One of the groups that I'm working with is called Camden for Clean Air. What we're doing is trying to, first of all, to close the Covina incinerator that has most of the pollutants that are coming into South Jersey, other than what's coming in from Pennsylvania. But we're also looking at possibility of putting some monitors up in downtown Camden, because there are several iron and steel places. One of them is EMR. They're apparently an international company, and the air pollution is horrendous as far as that's concerned. We're looking at some of the lower expensive ones. I'm not an expert on these things, so I'm not really certain as to what particular that we're looking at. But I'd like to know if we can reach out to you, perhaps for some guidance for direction to go with these things, and make sure we're accomplishing what we want to accomplish. That's the one thing. The other thing is a question as to where you're going to put them, because I'm not so sure we want to put them at the knowledge of the government in the city of Camden. There's some issues there which I don't want to go into right now, but we'd rather just simply put them up, maybe on a telephone pole somewhere. It's not a heavily populated area, but it's adjacent to other heavily populated areas as well. And we're trying to get as much as we can to be able to shut them down as well. Although that's a rather big lift, and that we understand what's involved with that. But I do know that they require permits from the state of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. So we're going to take some of our battles in that direction there, and hopefully we'll be able to get some positive feedback from them. So if if you can comment on that, it would be really appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the first question, yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to stay in touch and advise and give, hopefully unbiased opinions on various sensor technologies. I'm just going to pop my email in the chat just in case.
Great.
And then the other question about like where to place them. So I share your skepticism a little bit with like local government, and I think it's important to, not sort of cultivate a adversarial kind of relationship with them, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily look to them for like citing, like I think if you can, for community-based projects, I think it's better to like look at like schools, churches, community centers, whatever else things that you can, that people that are going to be kind enough to allow you to like have a little pole, even if it happens to be on the roof, if it's a small building, like 2 stories or something, that's okay for ground level monitoring. So that would be sort of my approach. And then, once you have those things established, once you have a few sites established, then maybe that's the time to open a dialogue with, the local government. Because I think maybe, there could be some territorial issues if they kind of, they might have their own plans to do their own monitoring that is, government sanctioned and not quite exactly in line with what other groups want. So yeah, that's sort of my advice. I'm happy to talk more, offline.
Yeah, and David, you might want to talk to me too, just so we're kind of aligned, because we're working together to try and get, air monitoring in, Tri-County area. And we do have some thoughts about putting some in Camden City for sure. We want to target. We're actually trying to target. And this is just me, Dave. I'm not going to talk to you. I know you don't like but overburdened communities. I mean, across the Tri-County area. And I know there's a couple different people talking about putting stuff in Camden City. So you might want to just, maybe if you want to, talk to me, and we can kind of align ourselves to, to get an overall strategy of, I mean, Camden City is pretty small. So if you do, if you put a bunch in there, that's going to probably help. But, you need David also to, I don't want to use the term calibrate. I guess it's the right, I don't know what term I'm going to use, but you need to adjust. So we're going to need that. So I think our overall strategy, again, if you want to talk to me about it, little bit, that's fine. If you have the funding though, just, go for it. But again, like I said, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but particular matter is just one part of the story. Marty, do you want to answer ask a
Yes,
question?
sure. Daniel, thanks so much for your presentation. My question concerns something called the Climate Trace Database. Are you familiar with that? Is that something that you've been engaged with at all, perchance?
I don't think so, actually. So I might not have
Okay.
the best answer. I can, yeah, if you tell me something about it, I might be able
So
to.
it was introduced at the COP28 conference. I think that Al Gore and a team of other people were involved in putting it together. They collect data from over 100,000 different sites around the world. So that
Nice.
might actually give you a better, more detailed map than the one that you showed us, for example. So if you go to, I think it's climatetrace.org. And you can check it out. You can zoom in right down to the county level, and you can also go out, internationally. And they're
Yeah,
working with about 10,000 different organizations, from what I understand, around the
awesome.
world to collect their data. So you might want to tap into them and share
Yeah,
your data with them as well. So
absolutely. Yeah, I'd love that. I'll look into that. I think maybe I'm guessing, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm guessing it's more focused on greenhouse gases since it's climate.
probably right.
Okay.
Probably
Yeah,
right.
whereas we're focused more on like particulates and
I see.
what
Okay.
as Bill's been saying, like traditional air pollutants. Like greenhouse gases are still air pollutants, but they're kind of like the new air pollutants. Traditional air pollutants, stuff like NOx and carbon monoxide and SO2. Yeah, but I think those two, climate change and air quality, are basically two sides of the same coin. So it is a good suggestion to talk about joining up. So yeah, I'll look into that. I appreciate that.
I think methane is one of the things they're trying to
Yep.
track. There's a lot of damage that's being done to the environment because of the methane, spills, or however
Yeah.
you want to call them. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Cool.
okay, great. Thanks.
All right.
I just want to hop in really quick, if you guys don't mind. With the Climate Trace website, I went to it. The difference between the work they're doing and the work that we're trying to do is that's reported information on carbon dioxide that they're reporting. We're trying to sense the air and then make sure that these people that are Title V compliant, that they're holding up their end of the bargain, right? So from the community standpoint. So I just want to show a little bit of the difference here and what can happen with data where it's either reported or if it's sense data, what we can do with those things.
Thanks, Trevor. Good point.
All right.
Bill, you're muted. Bill's muted.
Sorry about that. So thanks a lot, Dan, for that. Again, that was really great, and I appreciate you giving us the time to do that. I'm looking forward to partnering with you for sure.
Yep.
So next on our agenda is Camden County Air Quality Committee. I think that's Renee, but maybe Sean, do you want to give a little bit of I don't think Renee's here.
Yeah, that's fine, Bill. Thanks. So the Camden County Air Quality Committee, several years in the making, is finally launched. The press release is in the chat. And why that's important is, listen, we did this just by pressuring our electeds, right? So it's completely replicatable, right? So there's no reason, if you're a resident of Burlington or Gloucester or Essex or Passaic, or Nassau County or Suffolk County, you can take this model, you can take our press release and send it to your county commissioners, your county executives, and say, we want to do this too. And so we had our first in-person meeting. The whole group got together in Cherry Hill last week. Folks from upstate. So all of the regulators were represented: DEP, BPU, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. The universities had reps there. As we talk about the green jobs component and training for all of this stuff, where that's on the our pillars, the electrification and charging infrastructure, organic waste strategy, and indoor air quality, et cetera. And the, and the big piece is regional engagement. So the team actually developed a regional engagement toolkit. So we've got, county commissioners from Camden reaching out to the mayor of Philadelphia to talk about, how do we do this regionally? We know a lot of the, pollutants come from the manufacturing ops going on that side of the river. Not blaming, not pointing fingers, but saying, how do we work together? How do we work with Philly? How do we work with Chester, PA? Again, the labor's involved, right? So at that meeting we had in Cherry Hill, the ports are represented, and it's funny, some of these folks, the stevedores, the electricians, the pipe fitters, we weren't sure what to assume because sometimes change can be difficult, but they actually, particularly the port, they're saying, yeah, please, we'd love to participate and we'd love your help, doing this, right? And so, just getting off the ground, the county officially hired a program manager to run the day-to-day and, all the work breakdown structures and the task list with thousands and thousands of points. The good news is that, this stuff is going on in other areas, right? So like California has their Air Resources Control Board, and and they do that regionally, right? So there's kind of like a Bay Area one. So it's not just San Francisco or Oakland, it's, the regions collaborating. So there's no reason we can't replicate a lot of that stuff. Speaking of Oakland, I don't know, tangentially related, if you guys saw it, but Oakland, California announced yesterday they have the very first school district in America to be all electric, right? And with V2G, meaning they can sell that power from those school buses when they're idle back to the grid. And so, hey, Oakland, if Oakland, California can do it, Oakland, New Jersey can do it, and certainly Camden, New Jersey, and Camden County, and our neighbors in Burlington and Gloucester and upstate and, in neighboring states. So sorry if that was a little long-winded, Bill, but that's the news for now.
That's great, Sean. That's really optimistic here. So our next one is, I believe, our great Sharonda on green jobs. You're on mute, Sharonda.
Yeah, I had to get my device and unmute myself. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am one of our EJ committee co-chairs for Tri-County Sustainability. And I wanted to talk about some of the green job opportunities that are happening. I'm going to put in the chat that the NJEDA just approved a wonderful green jobs. Wait, I'm sorry. Why is this not going to everybody? My apologies. It went, here we go. Sorry. The NJEDA has approved the creation of a $7 million green workforce training grant program. So for all the organizations that are working on setting up green jobs for folks to do training, there's a grant for that. And there's also another program. I have to make sure that everything goes to the right person and not direct message. There is a clean, my eyes are so blurry. Sorry. I am so sorry. Clean Energy Jobs program that is available. And I also added that link to the chat. That is very important. And then there's the job function action guides. That is something that folks who are looking at green jobs that they should look into. And there is also on May 22nd, a webinar, Building Up Heat Pump Contractor Networks. So I'm going to see if I can put that flyer in the chat as well. It's not letting me, oh, there we go. Here we are. And then there is also consider a water industry career. So in June, there's free enrollment in, this is Hudson County, Community College. My eyes are getting so blurry, y'all. And those are more opportunities. I just added into the chat. Oh, wait, did that come up right? All right, so yeah, I think that is the link. Did that come through right, guys?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, It's the link.
I see the web air, and you got 3 posts here. I think that's correct.
Okay, so here's the flyer. I think the last
Okay, yeah.
one included the link because there was the QR code. So yes, Tri-County Sustainability, lots of green jobs and workforce development stuff, and the Tri-County Sustainability Discord. So if you are not a part of that Discord group, please join. So we have quite a few opportunities and a bunch of information. I actually visited one of the unions, the electricians union, on, was that Monday, the local 102 of IBEW. And in line with a lot of the careers and positions that are required for offshore wind as a clean green job, I suggested that they jump on the offshore wind bandwagon because we need everyone. We need pipe fitters, we need carpenters, of course, electricians to work on offshore wind. And one good thing about it is that they cover large portions of New Jersey, a lot of urban areas, a lot of environmental justice communities, and they're going to start looking into that. What's interesting is that they're taking applications, but they only take out of about 200, maybe to 500 applications. They only take about 50 applicants, which I think is a little skimpy, but just trying to encourage more folks to get involved in clean, green energy and clean green energy jobs. And by the way, Global Wind Day is on June 15th at Liberty State Park. I have Tri-County Sustainability signed up. So who's going to man the table, folks? Starts at 11 a.m. Tri-County Sustainability needs a table.
Yeah, it sounds like a
Fun.
David Marty thing to me.
Sounds good. What do you think, guys?
Where did you say it's going to be held?
It's going to be at Liberty State Park in
Liberty
Jersey
State
City,
Park.
New Jersey, up near my area, northern New
All right,
Jersey.
well, you and I should talk. That's fine.
Yes, I can send you the email and I
Sure.
said, so Sean, we are in favor of tabling, correct?
Yeah, he is. So Sharonda, what can you send that to me? Email to me too?
Yes,
That
yes.
information? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do have email. Yep.
And Marty, did you have a question?
I did have a question of Sean, but I wanted, first of all, I wanted to thank Sharonda for putting all that information together. And I also second the idea about going to the Discord. And I want to thank Sean, since he's the one who found all those things originally and actually
Yes, he did.
the Discord. And Sean, I had a chance to read that press release about the air quality monitoring, and yeah, I would definitely love to share that with our folks in Burlington County so we can get a project going in that area as well. But I had a question. Wasn't there some air quality areas on the Discord? I can't seem to find them anymore. Did they get subsumed under another category?
Yeah, some of that stuff's locked down until we have the project management apparatus in place, unstructured. It's not, for the time being, it's not stuff that's not available in other places like the fleet electrification, for example.
Okay, so it's temporarily hidden. Is that the idea? But eventually
Correct.
might get it back.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll have to be patient then. Thank you.
Big ask, I know.
Right. Okay. All right.
So,
Well,
do you have anything else about returning citizens, Marty? Since you do, you are unmuted.
I think that the things that you mentioned were great. The one other thing I did want to give you an update on, I actually went to that training that the folks from the Green Maine Initiative. It's a full day training to learn the basics of building electrification and better what's the right word? Creating better insulation and all. And it's the first of 4 different programs that they offer, and it's a partnership between South Jersey Gas and they have a sister company. I think it's called Elizabethtown Gas. And and then the other thing I wanted to mention was David and I went up to the event at the Bell Center, where Bell Labs used to be, for the Sustainable Jersey Symposium Summit. And that
Yeah.
was a great event. If you haven't been to that event, I highly, highly recommend it. We made so many contacts that day and got a chance to sit in on several of the different presentations and all. It was, I'll definitely plan on going back again next year. So
Now, I usually go every year, Marty, but I couldn't attend this year because of my paternal grandmother's funeral.
oh, so
And
sorry for your loss.
thank you. She was 101. So I only have one grandma left now, and she's 95. And so
Got some good genes, girl.
oh, listen, somebody just told me, well, three people just said, well, you're like 29. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. In July, I'll be 49. So I always like to share that. So
They make people that old? So we'll just use that transition that it's Friday. Got it. What are you gonna do? Quickly, just because we want to power through a couple of things. There was a public quote unquote listening session for the Mach 2 hydrogen hub, which South Jersey is a big part or supposed to be. And I asked both David Pringle and David Steinberg, who were on that call, to give their thoughts. Mine are pretty well known. I'm not adamantly, I'm not opposed to green hydrogen and hearing more about it, but the team, the Mach 2 team, has been, forgive my language, piss poor in their communication so far. David, first David Pringle, what thoughts?
Thank you for inviting me, Sean, and you guys continue to do incredible work. I'll just leave it at that. And especially honored that you would reach out to me on this, Sean, when because like Sean and I were communicating, you know, I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad cop. So, you know, my testimony on Wednesday night, you know, didn't give them, you know, let's just say I held them to account. No, I was the bad cop. And then I think Sean was like right after me or a person or two after me. And he was like so substantively on point with me, but in a very different tact. So I'm
It's
like,
like going in the ring after Mike Tyson roughs him up for you first.
yeah,
You know?
there you go. But just like, yeah, like Sean, I'll be your bad cop to your good cop any day. You know, the key is right to have it be coordinated and whatever. So, you know, hydrogen is really complicated. How is it produced and how is it used? You know, there's lots of environmentalists disagree on pink hydrogen and what nuclear fuels happen. Full disclosure, I'm anti-nuke. While I'm also anti-nuke, I'm not saying shut down the nukes today because, you know, I use electricity too, including on this call. And we don't have a plan if, you know, 40% of our base power disappeared today. But I'd like to see, I don't think nuclear should have a future, etc. And we have to have a, you know, plan and whatever. That said, for me, and the groups I most work with, you know, the much more imminent threat right now isn't nukes, it's fossil fuels. And we got to get rid of all that stuff, the faster the better, etc. Our concern with all of the hydrogen hubs, including the, you know, Mach 2, which sounds like it's one of the better ones, and I put sounds in quotes, there's no good way to produce hydrogen, you know, other than maybe green, but even green hydrogen. So let's remember what green hydrogen is. We got renewables producing electrons. We can put that on the grid to do what we want our world to do, or we can take those electrons out of the grid to produce hydrogen to then do something else. So generally speaking, we advocate keeping those electrons on the grid, don't have it go anywhere. There are certainly some more difficult industrial processes, you know, steel production that require really high heat, aviation fuel, shipping fuel, or whatever that, maybe there's some niche markets, in the future. We can talk about that. Hydrogen produced for hydrogen fuel cells is a different story, but the vast majority of hydrogen being proposed to be produced isn't for any of that. It's just to be put on the grid to burn stuff. And we have to stop burning stuff. It's bad for climate. There's too much leakage. It's bad for overburdened communities. It's bad for all of us. As Bill mentioned, he has asthma. And I'm not naive enough to, suggest we're going to make all this stuff go away ever, let alone yesterday. But, we have to stop enabling it as best we can. So, so the hydrogen hubs are a massive concern. Even if they were doing a really good public process that Sean better and more kindly than I did articulate on Wednesday night that they're not having a good process. The good news is this is still very, very, very early on in the process. So, we have there's a long road to hoe before we get to the point of producing hydrogen through any of these processes. But every minute and every dollar we spend on considering it is a dollar and a minute that could be spent on something else, and that I would argue would be better spent.
Awesome. Thank you, David. And you are the watchdog we need, right? Like, so keep up the great work. Speaking of Davids that do great work in the state, Mr. Steinberg.
Hello. The other day I did something a little bit different because I've made a lot of presentations before various kind of groups, municipalities, and all kinds of other things as well over the years. And I decided to do something a little bit different because I know from taking a look at who the speakers were that there wouldn't be a lot of people talking positive about the issue. So I decided to do something a little bit different. And here's what I'd like to just read. It'll take about 4 or 5 minutes or so, what I did. And I'm going to go right from the beginning, and you'll find out from the beginning where I'm coming from with this. Okay, Mach 2. Sounds like spitting, doesn't it? My name is David Steinberg. I'm an avid poet, an avid environmentalist, an avid advocate for peace. I echo all the speakers' comments in opposition to this project in poetic form. Here we go. In southern New Jersey's verdant land, a hydrogen hub they plan to stand. But in these fields, I see no gain, just risks, losses, and heavy pain. Oh, how the promises of progress gleams, yet shadows lurk in hydrogen dreams. For what cost shall this hub arise amidst the land where nature lies? To pave the way for industrial might, must we forsake the earth's own light? In rivers, forests, and skies so blue, do we see the price we'll pay anew? The hub may promise jobs and more, but at what expense, we must implore? For ecosystems fragile, they will decay, in the hub's looming shadowed display. Let not our dreams be shrouded in smoke, nor our landscapes faded behind the cloak of progress veiled in industry guise. Let wisdom guide, let nature rise. So let us stand with voices strong against this hub where shadows throng, for in rhyme and reason we'll convey our opposition clear to light the way. In southern New Jersey's verdant land where plans for hubs take their stand, voices rise in opposition's plea, denied a chance we strive to be. In Mach 2's meeting, the March date excluded many, filled us with hate. From Chester's fields to Philly's street, our communities were denied our seat. No buses run, no voices heard. In silence, our concerns deferred. Frontline faces pushed aside or grievances you cannot hide. OCED words, a guiding light, inclusion, equity in their sight. Yet Mach 2's blindness stark and clear to frontline struggles, they show no fear. Community plans a cloak of veils hidden from those who bear the trails. In secrecy, Mach 2 hides, while justice's flame it surely chides. Labor, jobs, a tangled mess. Equality, a distant guess. Injustice seeps through every crack, leaving all fairness back. Dangers lurk in air so thick, from burning hydrogen, woes inflict. Nitrous, oxygen, and smog cloud the air, while Mach 2 turns a deafened ear. Greenhouse gases, a looming doom, hydrogen rise spelled earthly gloom. Leakage, warming, dangers vast, inefficiency, shadows cast. Frontline voices we cry in vain, as Mach 2's plans, they stake their claim. But without consent, how can we stand against the tide of this reprimand? In Pensy, Jersey, Delaware's embrace, our communities left in a dire space. No consultation, no hands to hold. Watch Mach 2's project as they unfold. So let us ride in unity's might against the shadows of this blight. For justice, equity, let us strive. In poetry, our voice to keep alive. Thank you for allowing my creative move to give testimony in rhyme poetic form in my opposition to the Mach 2 project. And finally, let's also listen to our Native American brothers and sisters as they know how to take care of the environment hundreds of years before Columbus discovered America.
Nice job.
I figured that one way to get
Beautiful.
across is in poetry. I'm a poet, so I know the impact of the spoken word, and I figure this might be something a little different to put this in a way that someone on the OCED or whatever it is will want to take another look at this and read it again, perhaps even a third or fourth time, perhaps even show it to their other friends. I think that is that was one of my motivating factors in putting it this way.
I think you nailed it, David, as witnessing it in real time on Wednesday night. And, I talked about a Sean and me tag team, but it's, I think the best testimony and public comment is everybody saying in their own ways, in their own words, in different ways, because you never know who's going to connect with what. So,
I would have loved to
I
see
have
that
one
movie.
way batting over the head.
I'm
Your
batting
poetry and
I'm batting
Sean's
in one ear and out the
reasonableness.
other,
Yeah, it's great.
going right through.
Okay, so that was beautiful, David. Thank you so much for that. We need all forms of resistance, whether they be whacking folks over the head, screaming at them, saying a beautiful poem, But I also wanted to add that I will be attending the Hydrogen Energy Workshop at Montclair State on this Tuesday. And I'm also going to be giving a little short update about the Burlington City Youth Summer STEM Community Garden Program. So this is going to be a partnership between the O-League, Operation Grow, and of course, Tri-County Sustainability. And part of the activities that I will be participating in will be the Farm to Table program, and of course, extending more into dealing with STEAM. As you all know, I do lots of art with my young people. And shameless plug, June 3rd, I'm having my second annual gala at Nanina's in the Park. And if you want more information about that, you can visit operationgrowinc.org, operationgrowince.org. And I want to conclude this Tri-County Sustainability Environmental Justice meeting for Friday, May 17th. If anyone has any questions, please speak now or forever hold your peace.